Okay.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So what's up, y'all? My name is Denzel. DZ, as y'all most likely already know, and I'm here with Chelsea actually. And I'm actually gonna have her introduce herself, and then we're gonna introduce the topic that we're gonna be discussing today. And you guys feel free to like post comments as we talk. I'm gonna introduce y'all to do. I'm gonna invite y'all to do that again, like when people start like coming on more. And for those of you who are watching post stream, feel free to leave comments like underneath the video as well. But take it away, Chelsea.
Okay, so hey guys, my name is Chelsea. Chelsea Marie. It's hyphenated. Friends call me Chelsea, whatever. But I'm here in Sacramento, and so we actually met via a mutual friend because we were just chit chatting on I guess the same topics. We happened to touch base on the same wavelengths. So
Mhm.
so yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
pretty much. And the topic that we're going to be talking about today is essentially on the lines of, can guys and girls be just friends? So actually, the way that Chelsea Marie and I met was like I've already been like tweeting the past few months about uh platonic relationships versus romantic relationships. And a lot of you may have already seen my my YouTube video about the 8 forms of Greek love. And I was explaining how like love comes in various different forms that even the Greeks already like knew about, and how looking at the world in a very two-dimensional way is just not real. And so the idea of guys and girls, like, just seeing things like just seeing a relationship between guys and girls is just platonic or just romantic, I think is a very black and white and just like limiting view of being able to see things in general. Like the way that we relate is like very interlayered. And essentially, I was also saying that our limited view on all of this is keeping us from being able to have thriving relationships with each other. And again, I don't just mean like romantic relationships, but I mean mostly platonic relationships. Because in my opinion, it seems like whenever platonic relationships, especially with those of the opposite gender, start going to a certain level of depth, then people
Mhm.
automatically, like, what I'm thinking about is like that meme with the guy who's like waiting, like for like a butterfly is like coming to him or something. I don't know if you're familiar with
Right.
it. Yeah, and then he's like, "Is this romantic?" Like that's what I'm thinking of right now. And it's like, no, that doesn't mean it's romantic. It just means y'all
Right.
having a deep connection. But I think that people have confused depth of connection for romance, and a lot of times, like, it really is romance. So I'm not saying that it never is, because clearly there is such thing as a romantic relationship. But I feel like a lot of times it's really not. It's just the depth of connection that you're having, but people can I guess not really see it the way that it should be, and they'll make something into something that it's not supposed to be, and it'll just soil it altogether. So that's
Mhm.
that's like the foundation of all of it. And I know that you had like a lot of thoughts on that. Like we've already talked about a lot of it like the past couple of weeks, but if you don't mind like sharing your opinion. And I'm actually going to now share this on Twitter because we are a little bit late, so people don't know if it's going on or not. Uh, Technical difficulties, but
Yeah, tons. But okay, so it's kind of touching base on what you think. I do feel like, and this is purely my opinion, but I do feel like when it comes to platonic relationships, like you said, when we reach past that deep, when we get towards that deep connection, a lot of people get confused
mhm,
on whether or not it's like romantic. But sometimes I do feel like it has to do with someone's emotional immaturity, because you have to be able to recognize, like, okay, so who is this person, and what, like, what, how are they in my life, like what is the reason that they're in my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, is it just like a reason type of relationship? Is it a seasonal, type of relationship? Or is it, just strictly, supposed to be something that is, a lifetime type of relationship? And so a lot of the times, because of the huge chasm that we have between men and women, where, women think one way and then the guys think another way,
Mm-hmm.
all of that gets so confused and we tend to overthink it. And so I guess I kind of touch a base on like some of the things that I was telling you is that, if you lack the ability to heal your brokenness, you immediately jump into relationships at the first connection that's made. And you're not
Mm-hmm.
really thinking it through like, okay, well, maybe this can't just be a friendship, or maybe it should just stay a friendship. A lot of the times if we have, as women, if we have emotional wounds, sometimes we just immediately offer, sex in a relationship. And we just force lifetime scenarios on things that should strictly stay platonic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and I think, when you have those relationships that kind of, I guess, go beyond their the appropriate boundaries, then that's when, two individuals end up hurt, and then that emotional wound that you never healed becomes, like I told you, it becomes infected, and then you start spreading that to some other person, and then that's where this whole, women are trash, men are trash mentality comes in, because we're so hurt. We're hurt. We're not healing those emotions because we're trying to bandage everything up, and based off of some deep connection that shouldn't have went towards a romantic path in the first place.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. I fully agree with that. I fully agree with that. And I feel like this also even could potentially lead into like people's idea of like defining the relationship, like DTR, like kind of like knowing where something's supposed to head from the
yeah,
beginning.
right.
And I feel like, of course, an self awareness should also be a big part of that, like knowing when you may be attracted to somebody. But even
Yeah.
then, like I feel like there's a difference, uh and I'm trying to find a way to like articulate it. Like, so for example, people could be in a platonic friendship, but then
Yeah.
able to objectively, like, like, or impersonally just uh, find someone to be attractive. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's like, yeah, like that's like understandable. Like, okay, but then actually being attracted to that person, like that's a different thing. And then the next thing is, what are you going to do like with that attraction even? So I feel like the first thing that I mentioned, where it's like you can just see, oh yeah, that person's like they're attractive. In
Hmm.
my opinion, that's different from being attracted to the person. I feel
Yes.
like when you notice that you are attracted to the person, then now it's probably like a level where maybe it's like this is probably like where we get that whole like, oh, people of the opposite gender can't be friends because somebody's always going to end up attracted to the other, which I personally don't think is true. I think it's common that that happens, but
Hmm.
I don't think it happens as frequently as we may think it does, because again, I feel like it's just the depth of connection that all of a sudden makes the people start thinking that they are actually attracted to each other.
Hmm.
Um, but even so, if you're self-aware enough to know, like, no, this is like an actual attraction to that person, it's not just
Hmm.
like depth of connection. Now,
Yeah.
okay, so you're aware of that. That's good. Now you have to start practicing that self-control. Like, what are you going to do about it? Um, is this a relationship, like you said? Like, is this actually like a relationship where I believe we should take it to that level of
Right.
romance? Should we start seeing each other as like romantic partners? Like, is this something like I would have run a whole simulation about it, like I would start
Hmm.
thinking of like, okay, where we stand right now, and then how the dynamic of the relationship will change, because in a romantic relationship there are different expectations um,
Right. Yeah.
than what you would have in a platonic relationship. Like
Right.
there's just things that you're going to expect from your friends
Hmm.
or that you won't expect from your friends that you will expect from a romantic partner.
Right.
So when you think of all of these things, like of like there's so much more that should go into deciding that somebody should be a romantic partner for you than
Hmm.
just being romantically attracted to the person. And I feel like if you're able to identify that you are romantically attracted to the person, then it's always best to now run that in your head, like, okay, like what do I do like with these feelings? Is this something that I should now put into practice? Because
Hmm.
there are also cases where somebody could be romantically attracted to someone, but that doesn't mean that you have to act on every romantic attraction that you have. Because
Yes.
you could be in a relationship with someone and it happens where like some you might, I don't know, spring like minute romantic feelings for somebody else at
Hmm.
work or at school or at your I don't know, wherever. And it's just like, oh shoot, that's there. But if we all just jumped to that and
Hmm.
use those feelings, then that just be chaotic. So there's a level
Yeah.
of self-control that should be used there. And do you have anything to say on that before I guess?
I do, yeah, because I feel like a lot of the times, and it may be just societal norms. We look at the outside of an individual, and then we just immediately get attracted of it, and we don't even think, okay, I need to look past this person's looks. Like I need to actually see if we're on the same wavelength. And so a
Yeah.
lot of the times when you have those romantic relationships, it's because they purely looked on the outside, and they're like, oh my
Hmm.
goodness, like she has nice, a nice curve, like nice
Hmm.
shape of her body. She has a beautiful smile, da 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 da. But you don't look on the inside of the person, and then you realize like you have nothing in common with them, but it was just mostly just that lust, that what you see on the outside,
Yeah.
and then sometimes even still, if you find someone attractive, you can get to know them and just feel like, you know what, we're two totally different people. Like, I can easily say with some of my guy friends, like, oh yeah, so and so is attractive.
Right.
But when we got deeper and we got to know each other, it's like, oh yeah, there's nothing there. There's no type of
Hmm.
romance, because you look past it. You have to look
Right.
past that whole fog of, oh, this person looks so good,
Yeah.
because you can miss out on some really great, just platonic, friendships.
Yeah, absolutely. And then even like to flip that, there's
Hmm.
some people who are not as physically attractive, but then you get to know them and then it's like, oh, that person could actually be a romantic interest because of
Right.
what's on the inside. And
Right.
so again, like that's something that's supposed to like just go a lot deeper than, like the physical.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be like just skin deep.
Right.
But I think like definitely like looking at things from the external, like that's just a big thing. Like, so I think the first thing actually that we could address is like how you had mentioned earlier. Like there's some relationships where it's not even meant to have gone like the long term. So
Right.
I remember that we had talked about this a little bit
Hmm.
in the Twitter DM, and I
Yeah.
brought up Bridge to Terabithia. And for those
Yeah.
of you who haven't seen it, then spoiler alert, Leslie dies. And it broke my 13, 12-year old. I don't remember how old I was, but I
It's
was a
too
young.
emotional.
It was torture. I did not expect it. I didn't see it coming at all. I was like in denial. It just really surprised me. But Leslie was, so there's like two characters. There was Justin and there was Leslie. And just before Leslie came, he was like very lonely. He seemed depressed. Like he didn't really like talk to anybody at school. He was very stoic. He just seemed to just draw in his book. Like that was the only amount of imagination that he had. His only like outlet. Then this new girl comes to school. She's also his next door neighbor, and she's like just full of life, and like she's like always like being kind to him, even when he wasn't being kind back to her. Then they create this like whole imaginary world. It was almost like Rugrats, even, where they like have this imaginary world where they can just be
Hmm.
themselves in the woods called Terabithia, and
Hmm.
they start drawing closer and closer to each other. And
Hmm.
you could see that they're like building a strong kinship, like they have a very strong bond. And it, to me, it went past like, just being like, oh, boy, girl, they need to get
Right.
together kind of thing. To me,
Yeah.
it just seemed like strictly, maybe strictly is too strong of a word, but like it
Hmm.
just seemed like what should have been a very like platonic but strong, deep connection with each other
Hmm.
that they were having. That could have
Right.
even probably been created even if Jeff had like another
Hmm.
guy there. And
Hmm.
so seeing that, I think that we talked about then like how Leslie, like we said, like she dies, and Jess was like devastated. And one thing that I brought up, I was devastated, but one thing I brought up was that just like what you said, like she wasn't meant to be there forever. Because
Right.
after
Yeah.
Leslie came into his life, then he
Hmm.
started having more life. He started like being more creative. He started like being more outgoing. You start seeing him even treat his teacher differently, the teacher that he rarely spoke to, like all of these different things start happening in his
Hmm.
life to make him like just a kind of like different person. And it's like Leslie transformed him. And then
Hmm.
after she had done all the transforming, unfortunately, she had to go. And but she never really truly left, because she left the best parts of herself in Jess's heart. And
Right.
after that, at the end, you see that Jess was with his younger sister, and then he creates Terabithia with her. And
Hmm.
of course, him and his younger sister have a different type of relationship than like him and Leslie did. You know what I mean? Or
Right.
maybe it was similar in the sense that like not necessarily an attraction, but like just like having that deep connection. Like now he's able to build a deep connection with his younger sister, um,
Hmm.
because of what Leslie had built with him. And so there's a lot of people in our lives where if we don't see the purpose of why
Hmm.
they're there, which this is perfect for like coming into this new year. If you don't look ahead to see the purpose of why this person is here, then you might misinterpret what that purpose is. And if you misinterpret the purpose of something, if you use something outside of its purpose, then you pervert it. And then once you pervert it, then it can cause like a lot of damage in the long run. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you, like you said, if you pervert something, if you keep something longer than what it should be, it's like, look at it as food, right? So if you
Mhm.
keep some eggs in your refrigerator longer than they should, they're going to get expired. They're going to
Right.
spoil. So that's kind of how relationships work.
Mhm.
Where it's like, if you mistaken a reason or a seasonal relationship and you try to make it lifetime, then one, you either end up like creating this sense of codependency,
Mhm.
or you create so it's just like someone becomes an enabler for you
Yeah.
for some bad behaviors,
Yeah.
or it just puts a lot of unnecessary strain on it, and then just something that should have had a positive outcome, that divine intervention or that divine intention, like you
Mhm.
said, it becomes perverted, and then you just, instead of using it to become, to I guess better yourself, or using it to help you be able to interact with people in a better way and to be able to
Right.
change your behaviors, then it's kind of like you leave yourself tainted, and
Mhm.
then and you walk around again infecting everyone, because
Yeah.
hurt people,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that probably a good question then to ask you,
Hmm.
especially like as a female and everything. How
Hmm.
would you distinguish romantic and platonic relationships?
um Man, it's kind of tough, because I think I feel like it's tough in the sense of, like, I feel like something's going platonic, and then someone else is just like, no, this is definitely not platonic. You're trying to
Mhm.
friend zone me, right?
Mhm.
I think it's tough in that sense, because making sure that it's a mutual kind of situation.
Mhm.
But how I usually see it out is like, I I really try to look past a person's looks, because I think that's something that my mom really instilled in me, and all of my siblings at a really young age, is just like, look past people's looks, and yeah, they may be attractive, but they may be ugly on the inside, or
Mhm.
maybe you don't find them attractive, but they could have such a beautiful soul that that's what makes them awesome. So I think it's just one of those things where you have to sit and you have to forcibly, well, I guess be intentional about like, okay, how am I going to get to know this person? You know, is this something that like this person's going to help me learn, you know, or is it just going to be a situation where it's like, I don't, you know, where they're checking out, or the person is like, you know, checking off some things on my list and a romantic partner, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
And it also depends on, is that what I'm looking for right now? Am I strictly just looking for friends, or, you know, I think that's kind of the situation. But
Yeah.
it's really hard to get both parties, both sexes, to actually come to that agreement.
Mhm.
Or, I mean, I guess to kind of be mature enough to recognize that, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I feel um like that's my ideal in society, especially in society now where like we talk about how like, men are trash and so many
Right.
things.
Yeah.
And it's like it just kind of like sucks because um I have to face the reality, even though like,
Right.
I'm an idealist type of person.
Hmm.
And I try to strive toward that ideal. Like even creating this
Hmm.
video is
Right.
my attempt to kind of plant seeds of my ideal into society. I feel like when you plant seeds of idealism into a society, then later on, even if it's years later, it sprouts. I believe that Martin Luther King Jr., he did that. Like he had his dream, so that was a seed that was planted in his mind, and then he planted that into the minds of people in his generation, in his time. And even though he died, his seeds were still planted and they grew later. And now we have that dream coming to pass, like where it's like little black boys and little black girls, and then white boys and white girls, like, you know, we're all together and everything. So now it's like my ideal is like right now it seems impossible, but the ideal that I'm shooting for is kind of like uh, I see. So again, another show that I think I brought up was Victorious. I don't know how familiar you are with that show. Uh,
I never really watched Victorious. I was more of a,
that's fair.
wasn't that like Nickelodeon? I was more of a Disney
Don't worry.
kid.
It's all right.
Yeah.
I forgive you. No, I'm just kidding. I like Disney too. But
Yeah.
well, for those who do know of like Victorious, pretty much like there was two characters on there named Andre and Tori. So Tori was like the main character, Victoria Justice, and then there was like Andre. And throughout the whole series, Andre and Tori, like they spent a lot of time together. They did a lot of like duets together, you know, and they have like a squad. So like there's like a group of them that's like always, you know, hanging out. And then Andre and Tori, their specific dynamic is like actual like just best friends. Like, you know, like Andre will show up to Tori's house, they'll be chilling, they'll be writing like music together, and they just seem like very comfortable. You know, I felt like you're familiar with like the Greek terms. Like you'll see like some ludus go on with them, you know, where like they might like throw something at each other and like they'll laugh. So it could be interpreted as flirting, I guess. But you can still tell that their true nature of their dynamic is platonic, because it
Hmm.
even got to points like where Andre was interested in other women and Tori would help out Andre. You know, like Tori would like give Andre advice, you know, and then vice versa. And it wasn't out of like a, well, why isn't he interested in me kind of thing? You know, like there was no
Right.
jealousy there. Like she genuinely wanted her best friend to have love. Um, and I saw people stating how like, well, why don't they get together? They just need to get together. They just need to get
Right.
together. And as I watched through the whole series, I was so glad that, spoiler alert, they never got together.
Yeah, which is good.
Yeah, like because I feel like that's the ideal that I see in society. I would like to have um guys and girls like have a level of closeness or intimacy, depth,
Hmm.
where they can be cool with each other like that, but then still, you know, like understand that just because they have that type of depth, it doesn't like bleed into like a romantic, like it doesn't mean that it has to be romantic.
Right.
I genuinely feel like they both would say like, oh yeah, you know, Tori is attractive, like, oh yeah, Andre is attractive, but just like how you said, like, I don't see him that way, you know,
Hmm.
like, and I think that it's also something that I think a lot of girls used to say when we were younger, like back in the day,
Uh-huh.
"Oh, I see you too much as a friend," you know, and I thought I thought that was like BS back then, and I feel like every other
Right.
guy did, and y'all probably knew that it was BS too. But there's some truth to that. In fact, there's a lot of truth to it. Like once we see how we are today, like if
Mhm.
you see somebody too much as a friend, then it's like, no, I think that what we have right now, like the depth and connection that we have right now is very pure. It's
Yeah.
very, it's very just seamless and good. And
Mhm.
I something is telling me that this is not meant to go in that direction. It's supposed to just continue to have the floor beneath it cave deeper and deeper, but
Mhm.
in a direction that's still going towards just platonicism and not romance.
Right.
And so I think that that's like something that I would love to see in society where we know the difference between our romantic attraction to people and a platonic depth and connection with people. And we wouldn't be afraid of that. Because another
Mhm.
thing that I was like, I've been kind of like bummed about is that I'm somebody who really values depth of connection. Like I really,
Right.
really value that,
Mhm.
regardless of your gender. Like
Mhm.
I just want to connect with you.
Mhm.
And then being into typology and everything, it's like I learn about myself, and it's like, wow, well, this makes sense. Like I'm an ENFJ 9 social sexual, and it's just like all of that. It's just like a formula for connect, 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 and
Mhm.
I take connection and interpersonal dynamics and all of that probably way more seriously than the average person would. And it's just
Mhm.
where my attention seems to go to. And so when I feel like that's like being like deprived from me, then
Mhm.
I can get like very, I don't know, like grumpy, if that's a good word for it, or like very grieved. I think that's a better word. Like,
Okay.
yeah, it makes me like really sad because there's
Okay.
something blocking me from being able to connect with this person. And I know like when I was younger, I wanted to connect a lot with a lot of the guys and in elementary school and middle school and all of that. But then back then we had that whole no homo phase kind of thing.
Yeah.
That depth of connection, especially when you're trying to connect with males, um, it's so easy for them to be like, hey, is this dude gay? Or something like that. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, I am definitely not. I thought this is what
Yeah.
friends do. Like we
Yeah.
get to know each other, we talk about things, all of that. But um, guys back then, especially, were just so, like guarded that they didn't want to connect on that level. There was a certain level that they'd allow somebody to connect with them on if the person was a guy, and then they would block it off. And then if the person was
Yeah.
a girl, if you connected to them on a certain level, they all of a sudden start to like you and then they want you. So then, if
Right.
guys, it seemed like they never really learned how to just have a deep connection with people without making it romantic or stopping it before it was gay. And so, because of that, for me, who always wanted that type of depth of connection, I was drawn more to women. And
Mhm.
because I saw myself as like, okay, well, you know what? I would much rather just have people mistake me for liking the girls that I'm like hanging out with than to have guys think that I'm gay or to
Right.
have people think the guys I'm trying to connect with are gay for whatever reason.
Right.
And through that, that's helped me also a lot with like my emotional intelligence because women, according to my experience, have been so open with like the way that they emote and helping me to be able to understand like the other gender and everything.
Mhm.
So I just think that like if we had a society that was more open to those kinds
Mhm.
of things, like we didn't limit each other, like to the point where people even believed that King David and Jonathan from the Bible were homosexuals because
Mhm.
the Bible says that they were so close to each other, like they had such a deep connection with each other that their
Mhm.
souls cleaved onto one another. And
Mhm.
that to me was beautiful. But then you
Right.
compare things today where it's like, oh yeah, those dudes was gay. It's like, what? And like this is what's wrong in my opinion, like with society.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So all of that, like clearly I'm just like spewing a lot. Like these are things I've like thought about. But yeah. So do you have any commentary on that?
Yeah, I do, because I think that eh, humans, we're relational beings, right?
Mm,
We crave relationships, and anyone who says like, "Oh no," like they're lying. We're just we're we you got to have some type of relationship in
right.
some shape, form, and fashion with someone. You cannot just be like this isolated human being.
Mhm,
And so I think that we have this idea that relationships are only supposed to be when it comes to the same sex. It has to be very shallow.
mhm,
Especially with men. I feel like men, the relationship between men to men is very shallow because, like you said, no one wants to come off like, oh, I don't want to be seen as gay, like,
mhm,
and it's like, what? Like, no, it doesn't, like, what? And so I feel like when it comes to females, we don't have a problem
mhm.
getting as deep with a fellow female. We
Yeah.
we we crave that girlfriend kind of connection where we can just sit and talk, that sisterly kind of connection.
Mhm,
And so it's not a problem with us. But then when it comes to the opposite sex, we have this idea that if you want to have a relationship with the opposite sex, it just has to be romantic. And so
mhm.
and it's like, okay, we got to break down that wall, because one, men should be able to have that close relationship with another man, and it not be seen as a romantic, because then there you
Yeah.
go, you're putting a romance stamp on it,
Right.
that just because you're trying to have a deep connection with someone, that you have some type of feelings. It's like, no, let's move romance out of all of this.
Mhm,
It's like, let's just have this brotherly kind of love, this sibling kind of love, to where we build intimacy just on those intellectual wavelengths.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I think
Yeah.
it's just, when we get past that,
Mhm.
I think a lot of people will be able to connect, and across the sexes, and women should be able to have men as friends and it not go anywhere, and
Yeah.
men should be able to have men as friends and it be really deep.
Yeah.
So then because I feel like if men were to be able to go past that barrier, I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of men would be more open to their emotions,
Yes.
more in tune, and then they
Absolutely.
would be able to understand females a little bit
Yeah.
better, and we would
Uh-huh.
coexist a little bit more. There
Mhm.
wouldn't be these angry, like, oh, men are trash, and then like,
Mhm.
oh, all women want this, this, and this, or
Right.
women are too needy. Like,
Yeah.
we would be able to understand each other a lot more.
Yeah.
So,
I totally agree
hmm,
because it seems like the only reasons why guys may connect, if anything, is to talk badly about women. And
yeah,
it seems like the only reason why
yeah,
like now like women aren't connecting with each
we
other.
do it.
Yeah, it's like like to speak badly about like the men
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everything, and then again, like you said, like women have always seemingly like connected with each other because they've always wanted that sisterly love and everything. But
Hmm.
then when it came to connecting that way with guys, you'd see that a lot of women might be like hesitant
Yeah.
because they probably realize that the pattern is simply that guys don't ever want to connect with you the same way that my girlfriend wants to connect with me on this. If this guy's trying to like hear me out emotionally and all of that, this guy's trying to hit, or like this guy wants to be with
Yes.
me kind of thing. And for a lot of women, it's like, you know what? And I'm okay with that, because I think I might want this guy, kind of thing. Which, of course, in some cases or a lot of cases like that, that's not bad because again, we're not speaking against romantic relationships. We need
No.
those to continue to procreate. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's like the
Yeah.
thing. But I think like the biggest thing that we're trying to put out here is like knowing when it's supposed to be romantic and when it's supposed to be platonic.
Yeah.
And just putting more thought into that
Hmm.
aside from just oh, they look good, or like, oh, I'm blocking this because we're going too deep in a
Yeah.
connection. Because I feel like connection with someone, a good connection with someone, is one of the best feelings that anybody can ever have as a human being. Like on this
Hmm.
planet, I feel like that's such a great thing. I believe that God like created us for relationship, both relationship with Him and then relationship like with each other. And
Vertical, horizontal, for sure.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so when we limit ourselves from such things, then I don't know. I feel like you're just doing such dangerous things. And I feel like, of course, with this, everything comes with boundary, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah,
and
for sure. Yeah.
I feel like okay, so in that case, I feel like yes, sure, there may have to be like boundary, and I think that every relationship is different.
Hmm.
Where like you'd have to figure out like, okay, is this just me being insecure, or is this or is this really like a problem that my boyfriend is too close with this person? You know what I mean? Um,
Hmm.
and so, but then you can also like swing like the other way, where it's like some people like I've always said, like for example, and I've always like told my wife this, like I don't want to be an island couple. I saw island couples a lot, and like I just couldn't stand that. And just to like clarify, like the way I see it is like island couples are the couples who will get together and then they forget all of their friends. They forget
Yeah.
their family. They just get so wrapped up in each other. And it's
Hmm.
like, it's just me and you against the world kind of thing. And then those will be the same type of couples that when they break up, and they start looking for their friends again, like, hey, big head. And it's like, what? Like you weren't here for the past 2 years. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I feel like that's not okay. So
It's definitely not. Yeah.
I didn't want to be that. I still wanted to be the same person that I was before I got into a relationship, before I got married, and I feel like I've done a good job being able to keep those types of relationships with friends. Um,
Hmm.
and if anything, it's been friends who themselves kind of like, oh, well, hey, you married now, so haha. And it's like, to me, I'm like, you don't gotta protect me. Like
Right.
I know how
Yeah.
to set my own boundaries, kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, like I was saying, like like with everything, like there comes like boundary.
Right.
But it's also important to still have those dynamics, because without a good platonic relationship, without connection with each other, then there's so many things that we miss out on learning.
Hmm.
So I think one question that I'd have for you is like, what would you, and I guess like, of course, like it's personally speaking, because it's not something that we can generalize.
Hmm.
But how would you describe like boundaries when in like with when you're connecting with somebody of the opposite gender, both when you're single and then also when you're in a relationship, if there is a difference?
Um, we'll see. I feel like there's like, so it's like yes and no. There is a difference, and then in some cases no, there's not a
Mm,
difference. But it depends on the type of relationship, like how that relationship has been going, right? So
mm,
it's like if you are in a relationship where if you have a platonic relationship where it's just like, you guys talk and it's like easy going and there's no really, I guess, no physical touch where you guys are not, where you like pick and prod at each other.
right.
Because I had a friend that was like that. Like, I would pick on him like he was my brother, right? So
Mm,
it'd be like those little punches or like those little side hugs, like, put him
mm,
in a headlock type of situation, right?
yeah.
But then it's like when I got in a relationship, I just knew that like, okay, we could still have this dynamic, but that type of physical touch kind of needs to stop, because then it's almost borderline inappropriate, because it can, I don't want to make the person that I'm with feel uncomfortable with the fact that I'm always touching this person, or I'm
Fair.
like picking, like,
Even
you
if
know,
it's not like that in your head.
yeah, even if it's not like
Exactly.
that in my head, you have to also be intentional. Like, okay, so I'm not going to do this, because I have respect for the person that I'm with.
Right.
But then also, if you have those, those platonic relationships where there's none of that involved, it's just purely intellectual, then I
Right.
feel like there's really no reason to create any, I guess, extreme boundaries, because
I
like this
totally
is
agree.
going to stay the same way that it has always been.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're on the intellectual wavelength. We don't sit there and do all that,
Mhm.
horse playing or anything like that. So it should be, it's fine. I think it's situational. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah, I feel like I'm definitely like on the same wavelength with that. Even like with my wife, and David, um,
Yeah.
her and David, like they're really cool.
Uh-huh.
It's at first when they first like met each other, like they didn't
Hmm.
know each other. and like they used to like bicker and argue a lot and everything. And I was like, dang, this is my best friend in the whole world, and this is my girlfriend. I don't know how this is gonna work. But now that like she's always like randomly like like texting, I like David. So I'm like, all right, that's cool. And I am not even 1% like worried about that dynamic between them. Like I'm not in a group chat. Well, actually, technically we are in a group chat, but I mean like, they also have like their own, just one-on-one like messages between them. And I don't have like any inclination to be like, hey, let me see your phone kind of thing. Like if she shows me like, oh, look at what me and Dave were like talking about today. Just me purely out of respect. Like I'll like scroll and then like I'll stop at a certain point. Like, is that all? Not that I'm afraid that I'm going to see anything inappropriate, but it's like I personally want them to have that connection. I like the idea of us being able to all have our own interpersonal dynamics. So when we come together, then there's no awkwardness. Like if I excuse myself to like use the bathroom or something, or if I can't be at an event and I have to get David to like pick her up or something, there's not going to be a, so Denzel's not here. Now all of a sudden we don't know what to talk about. Like, no, I feel like that's dumb. I want them to have their own friendship. And in the same sense, like I'm cool with, people in her life too, and I think that of course, like, that comes with a level of like security, where it's like, I guess like not everybody, due to like certain people's past, like they won't be able to always like trust that, like no matter how, I guess, like healthy, they just be like, no, I can't allow my wife to talk to my best friend. Or they might even know their best friend and they know like, I know that my best friend is the type to like try something fishy. And it's like, so those are like different cases, but because like I'm very secure and confident of who I am to my wife, and I'm secure and confident in how she is, and I'm secure and confident in how David is, then them talking privately doesn't bother me. Just like I'd hope that like she also knows, which from proof, like me and her, like conversations, everything, I know that she knows that I'm also like the same way, like with others as well. And so I feel like it definitely does depend on the dynamic between the two. And I guess like boundaries aren't always like just like most things in the world, they're not black and white. They're not two dimensional. You can't always just generalize it. They're going to be, just like I said, like earlier in the stream, it's going to be different things for different people. But I think at the end of the day, it is like always like about like communication, like, and knowing your partner. Cause like you said, like when you like were like do like the horseplay or whatever, like with your friend, you had nothing in your mind about that before and after you got into it. And I'm sure that your friend knew that as well. But maybe the partner that you had would have needed some time to really understand that before oh, okay, this really isn't anything. Okay, and then maybe progressively, if you wanted to, then you could get back to that type of dynamic. Because I guess in like my opinion, it does just kind of like suck when you have to now restrict something that was innocent for certain cases. And sometimes it just has to be that way, like, because it is what it is. And I respect you for making that decision. But yeah, I think that like, again, like, I just like shooting for ideals. Like the ideal is for us to like build that type of trust with each other as a society, and people not to abuse that, the privileges that we have. Like if a woman allows you into her heart, then men like don't destroy it, whether it be platonically or romantically, like, travel well in there. And then the same thing with like, woman, like, if man is allowing you into his heart, whether platonically or romantically, then, like tread carefully, treat this like, especially like, let's be more thoughtful of each other in a way, and respect each other more in that sense.
Right. And I think another thing too, like kind of just to add on that, is like when it comes to relationships, you also have to understand that the person that you're with is not yours. right?
Mm,
The time that you have with them is only borrowed time. You're not going
wow.
to be with that person forever. With
Wow.
you're not going to be with that person forever. So they're not yours. So why even act like it?
Yeah.
Because I have to look at it like I am my own individual,
Mm,
and the person that whoever I choose to be with, they're going to be their own their own self. And so I
right.
can't sit there and say you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do
Mhm.
that, because it's like I don't own you, but let's
Mm,
have some
you're not
mutual
gonna like that.
respect. Right. No, they're not gonna like that. But it's like, let's have some respect and let's understand that, like, okay, let's set up boundaries. Let's talk about this. I
Yeah.
want to respect your friendships. I want you to respect my friendships. So then that way we both can, like you said, not be an island couple, but be able to
Yes.
kind of integrate, ourselves with, into the person's life, because that's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to sit there and, shape shift your world to fit the ideal of someone else's, because then you lose who you are and you lose parts of who you are when you cut off those meaningful connections. So,
Yes, I
hmm
totally agree. And I think like
yeah.
in summary, like speaking a lot about like ideals, I
hmm
I think I described it one time earlier on my channel. Like I see ideals as like the carrot that's in front
hmm
of the donkey. Like as
Right.
he's like walking, he sees the carrot and he's never going to get the carrot. But
hmm
somehow it keeps him going. And once he looks back, then he can see how much progress that he made. So an
Right.
ideal, by definition, is something that we may never achieve. And once
Right.
you reach the place where the carrot was, like as the
hmm
donkey, like as the carrot is like right here, and the donkey's
hmm
like where I'm at. By the time the donkey's
Right.
here, the carrot's already moved forward. So like it's always just like moving like that. And
Right.
that's what an ideal is. But it's supposed to keep you moving forward. And so without an
hmm
ideal, you are not progressing.
hmm
And so I think that that's a way that like we can continue to grow. Like as we have these ideals about our society, we keep a realistic view of what our society looks like right now. That way, like we can still stay grounded, but it's good to be off the ground enough to where like you're shooting somewhere and you're shooting for where you want the society to go to, because you see the like just imagine like how much we as a society would like we would just thrive if we grasped a lot of the concepts that we were talking about here, and really began to appreciate and understand relationships a lot more. So yeah, I feel like I feel complete with like getting all of this out. Did you have like any last commentary, questions, anything to share?
No, no, because I feel like I kind of got everything that I wanted to say out. Because it's just mostly, yeah, like men and women should be able to have platonic relationships. If you look past a person's the outer and you really start digging deep, then there's no telling how many great relationships you'll have out there, romantic wise, or even or just strictly platonic.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
the gist of it. It's like, don't let society tell you that women only have to be friends with women, and
Mhm.
men can have to keep it at a certain level
Right.
to like we have to break past those barriers, because we are relational beings. So
Absolutely.
we have to have vertical, horizontal relationships
Yeah.
across the board, regardless of gender. So
I love that. Yeah, that's a
yeah.
great summary. Let me just check out these comments. Hey, what's up, Niall? When it comes to issues like this, I suck at it. Oh well, probably due to me not having a lot or any FE. Oh yeah, so Chelsea Marie is like still learning about type. Um, as of now, we believe that she's actually INFP, and that's kind of like what I'm like going for. I haven't like officially profiled her for those of you, but like she took the test off of psychologyjunkie.com, which is Susan Storm's site. She did this whole test where I know I'm always talking about like how the tests suck online and everything, but I actually trust Susan's, and she like been working on that one. So I feel like that one has like less of a error rate than most online tests do. And so far,
hmm
Chelsea hasn't really like shown me anything to make me be like, I don't think that she's INFP. I wouldn't be too surprised if maybe like she was like INFJ or ENFJ or something. I don't know. She does seem NF to me, but yeah, as of right now, we're going with INFP. So yeah, that's just like a heads up. Non-obstinate emotional immaturity. I agree. How do you heal your emotion? Oh, that's a great
Yeah,
thing
that.
for Chelsea Marie, especially with what you do. So how do you heal your emotions?
So essentially, well, first thing, it's like I believe that whenever you really tap into self love, that's when you can be able to start the process of healing
Mm,
your emotions, right? So essentially, let's see. Let me take it back some. So like time, people say that time heals all wounds, right?
mhm.
Time does not heal all wounds. So it really doesn't. Let's just be real, because somebody
Right.
could say, somebody could have a person cheat on them, and
Mm,
then it's been 3 years and they're still not letting that go.
yeah,
The
it can make it
time,
worse.
yeah, it
Like
can
you
make
get
it so much
infected.
worse because they fester. It
Mhm,
just festers inside
mhm,
you. So it's like, no, time doesn't heal all wounds, but you have to be conscious enough to want to heal. So that means that you have to be able to rediscover yourself, and you have to be able to, face those hurts. You have to say, okay, so why did this relationship end?
mhm,
And what hurts most about it ending? And how did this person hurt me? And you have to say, like, okay, they hurt me in this way. And so you have to break down those insecurities that come from that. So, and just to be fully transparent, I was in a relationship where I was cheated on.
mhm,
And from that, I became insecure. I had trust issues that have never been there before.
mhm,
And I was very, not necessarily like paranoid, but I was really suspect. I was just like, wait a minute, what you doing?
mhm.
And it was one of those things where it's like, okay, now that I'm out of that relationship, I have to heal those emotions, because if I don't, then I'm going to think that every man that I get with is going to cheat on me, and then
Wow.
I'm going to be paranoid, and then I'm going to be jealous, and it's like,
Mhm,
no, I can't take that emotional baggage. So I have to say, okay, look, those insecurities, you were enough. It
mhm,
was just he was greedy, and he needed to have that. But you're beautiful. There's nothing physically wrong with me.
right.
Yeah, I'm a beautiful individual. I'm ever evolving, and you have to be able to be gentle with yourself. Don't beat yourself up. And if you don't beat yourself up, then you're giving yourself time to heal some of those bruises. So I guess I don't know if that made any sense, but
No,
essentially
that
you
makes
just gotta.
total sense.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah,
you gotta break it down, and you have to be willing to confront, because not a lot of people are willing to confront the hurt, because they're like, oh, I don't want to feel this way. And it's like, no,
yeah.
you got to face it.
Yeah,
So,
I really like, even like, especially what you brought up about, time heals all wounds. Like you can definitely think of it like maybe like some wounds, where, and just using that metaphor, like going with it and then making it kind of like literal. Like some wounds you can hurt yourself and then you don't do anything with it and it'll scab up. And then eventually, it'll fall off and then it'll be like, there was nothing really there. But then there are also wounds that you need stitches for that. You need to go and get that checked out, by a professional,
right.
If you don't do that, then you're going to continue to bleed out. You're going to continue to get infected, all of that. You will now have a scar there that will forever remind you of what happened over there. And
Hmm.
that, that wound may have healed. But then at the same time, like if that scar probably didn't even form, then it may also be the thing that kills you, like your paranoia, your that
Hmm.
allowing it to fester and just become infected in that sense. Like it'll now not just stop with that wound, it'll get to your whole entire body and it'll destroy your
Right.
mindset. And then next
Right.
thing you know, you are acting in ways that are just not you. And
Hmm.
they always say the cliche phrase like hurt people, but it's just
It's
true.
true.
Yeah,
It's so true.
it's really
Yeah.
true. And then, but then you'll also have like, healed people will heal people. And
Yeah.
so if you become someone who was hurt and then you find healing, then just like kind of like what you're doing, like now, like, and I think that I want to give you the opportunity, like when we're at the end, like when I tell you to shout out your Instagram and everything, so get ready for that. Also like say like what you do or like what your ideal is, what you're planning to do, because it's right in line, like healed people really do heal people, like where if you've been hurt in a certain way, it's like, dang, I know how this feels, but I was able to get through this. And now I have this heart to help other people to get through it. And so now you probably had to bandage your own wounds, but not everybody's good at doing that. Not everybody's able to do that. So instead, you go and help them learn how to bandage. You bandage their wounds, but you're teaching them
Exactly.
how to do it throughout the process, so
Yeah.
that now next time they get hurt, then they can bandage their own wounds. And if they
Yeah.
teach other people how to do the same thing, we won't have people always bleeding out. And so, yeah, I feel like you answered that beautifully, though. Like,
Thank you.
that's
I
really good,
appreciate that.
for sure.
I appreciate. Thank you.
Sydney says, I really appreciate this, you guys. Growing up, I learned conservative views between girls and guys and got the impression that guys and girls couldn't be just friends. However, that's not true. Yeah, I totally agree.
Definitely not true,
Yeah,
but yeah, and I have too. And growing up in like the Bible Belt, talking about below the Mason Dixon line, okay, like that is some conservative views. I'm talking like
mm,
you got to wear a full piece bodysuit with some full
shit.
piece like swimsuit with some leggings and a t-shirt before you jump in the pool, and that t-shirt better be black. so, like, so
Wow.
right, yeah, so it's like I feel like yeah, you have to be able to break those barriers down, and then also we come from this society too, where some women are just there, if they see you out with a group of guys, because I had a lot of guy friends. I
Mm,
don't think I never heard the rumors of like, oh, she's probably sleeping with this person, and that's just we have to be able to break that,
yeah,
like
yeah,
if you see someone with someone of the opposite sex or the same sex, don't automatically jump to them being in a romantic relationship. Just think that this person is creating a connection and leave it at that. And if they decide they want to share that they're in a romantic relationship or not, or if it's platonic, then they'll do so. Other
yeah.
than that, you just keep it moving. They're connecting.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And I feel like
yeah.
that's a big thing. Like, we have to teach our children. Like, I think that what we've been teaching them right now is that we, just like what Sydney's saying, like, we can't be friends. Like, oh,
Yeah.
you can't. Nope. You might think that you're just friends with that girl, but sooner or later, your
Yeah.
human instincts are gonna want you to do this and do that. And to an extent, that might be true with some people. But again, like
Hmm.
I was saying at the beginning of the stream, it comes to self-awareness and
Yes.
self-discipline. Like,
Hmm.
knowing, like, you don't have to act off of instinct. If
Hmm.
you might find someone attractive,
Hmm.
or even if you are attracted to the person, which, like I said, it could be, like, I believe, are two different things. You don't have to act off of that attraction. And so therefore, uh teaching these children, teaching people in general that, oh, you just can't do this, your instincts will always take over, I feel
Hmm.
like that's faulty.
Hmm.
Instead, teach them that they're stronger than their instincts and that they can
Hmm.
learn self-control to be able to not go with that. And a lot of times instincts won't even always come up in that sense. um,
Hmm.
and the more that they learn to just be with the opposite gender and, like, just chill, then the more they'll be able, like, those things won't even, like, come up. So, like,
Right.
I also, like I said, I had a lot of, like, female friends, like, growing up and everything. And I could say that, like, oh yeah, she's attractive. But at the end of the day, I didn't have, like, they all felt safe around me. I even had, like, female friends who were saying that I was their gay guy best friend that's not gay. Because
Well, I don't even want
I
to know what the acronym for that is. Is it
but it's like,
G Big F?
yeah. And it's like, at first it's like, huh, but then I guess, like, now I've gotten to see, like, like, it's flattering in a way, because what they're saying is, like, I trust Denzel that much to
Yeah.
where I know that he won't act off of instinct, if there's even an instinct to begin with. And I think that that's how I plan to train my son one day, if I have a son.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I'm trying to play my daughter one day if I have a daughter. Like, don't be afraid of the opposite genders, and don't suppress such things. Like, allow your relationships with those people to come about, and then just navigate them carefully, and
Mhm.
thoughtfully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. I can definitely say if everyone thought like you, and if we taught our children, like eventually, I would have to say that probably dating apps like Tinder would probably end up like it not not existing, or
Yeah,
the whole meeting would be like completely shifted of the purpose. So
facts.
yeah.
Lilia asks, do ENFJs like texting during the flirting phase? I can't speak for all ENFJs, but I mean, I know that I do. I just like texting in general. And so, and I
Hate
mean,
texting.
well, if she's an ENFJ by any chance, then I guess now you have
Which I'm definitely, I would say no.
okay, yeah. So there you go. Yeah. But yeah, like for me, I just like texting in general. I've always liked texting paragraphs, whether I'm interested in the person or not. I just like conversation. I like intellectual banter. That's actually something that I really like going off of. Like I just really connection, so
Yeah.
yeah, whether it's just playful flirting, like or ludus, like with no actual intent on getting to a romantic relationship, or if it
Mhm.
is like trying to build to a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
Personally, like yeah, I just like texting in general. She also says, Chelsea, I like you.
Oh, thank you. I don't know who you are, but I like it too.
Do you lose interest if you don't see your crush in person for a long time? Chelsea?
um, if I don't see, I mean, that's kind of like it depends. Well, no, yeah. Okay, how can I say it? I guess so. Yes. Okay. Yes, I will say that.
Mm,
Because yeah, there was a situation where like I was digging this guy, he was digging me, and it was kind of like um we were never around, and it was kind of like, oh well, I just find him really attractive, and that is
mm,
cool. And so it just got to the point where I'm like, okay, if that's all that I find that I like about the person, and I'm not getting to know them, then it's like, let's just move on. I'm not, clearly that connection wasn't there. I wasn't able to make a deep enough connection to even determine if this was just going to be a friend, or if this was going to be romantic relationship. So I would say like, yeah, after I do lose interest, and then I'm just like, hey, yo, what's up? And then, I move along.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just know, yeah.
I think for me, it's like kind of like the same way. Like
Hmm.
I probably hold on longer because I'm able to like go off the leftovers or remnants from times that we did have together.
Okay.
But leftovers can only last so long. And so
Yes.
yeah, so I feel like if I'm the type of person like in general where if I'm not seeing reciprocation go
Hmm.
on, like so maybe if I didn't see that person like in person for a long time, but we are talking all the time, we're constantly texting
Yeah.
without
That's, yeah.
and
Hmm.
we're just in connection, I could still go off of that. In fact, I could fall even deeper for that person just off of texting. Um, but and just like connecting with that person, like talking on the phone, whatever. But if it's like we are barely communicating, then yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely, like that flame will dwindle and things will just fade. So
Hmm.
yeah, in that sense, like that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
What would prevent you from confessing when it's so obvious they like you back?
Oh, confessing like the same emotions, I guess. Red flags.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you just see some red flags, because yeah, just because you have a, yeah, I would say, I would just say red flags. If
Yeah.
there's some things about their temperament, because you can have some really cool connections with people, right?
Mhm.
And you guys can be vibing on an intellectual level, but their temperament is just not there. They're like short tempered or something like that, and then you're like,
Mhm.
yo, you tripping right now? So how about you hit me up when you start? If that's something that that person constantly does, like you can vibe with the person all you want, but if there's just certain things that are red flags for you, then even if you may think that like, oh, I think I kind of like this person, you gotta, yeah.
Yeah.
Pink and red flags. Shut it
Yeah.
off. Yeah.
Pink and red. I'm forever
Yeah.
gonna remember that. Now.
Yes.
Pink flag. Be careful for it when it turns red.
Yes, exactly. Yes. It's
Yeah.
kind of like white clothes, you know? It's like you got some
Mm,
whites, you put some red in there. It's like, where's it going?
wow.
You know? Yeah.
Yo, you deep.
I do. You know what? I speak with a lot of like, and analogies and symbolism and stuff like that
I
because that's how I
do.
learn.
Yeah,
So,
same, same. No, I really like
yeah.
that. I really
Thank
like
you.
that. I'm seeing the pictures as you say it. I like that.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
just helps you. I feel like it just helps people understand it. Like it puts things in layman terms without making people feel like they're inferior. Like,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah,
like just
absolutely.
Pictionary.
Yeah. But yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with Chelsea Marie. Like for me, it would definitely be if I see either pink or red flags, as in like I'm always looking at the long term, like, okay, if I'm always just thinking of implication and chain of events. If I tell this information to this person, how will they respond to it? And then how will I have to respond to that? And then how will this go? And then how that go? And I
Yes.
just think like that all the time about stuff. And then after I play that whole simulation in my head, then I zoom right back out. And it's like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that because
Yeah.
that doesn't seem like it's gonna go well in the right, like it's gonna go in the right direction. And this is probably not the type of person that I want to be with. Of course, speaking
Mm-hmm.
for like getting married and everything. But yeah, like, no, I don't think that that's the person I'm looking for. Sure, I might be attracted to that person, but just
Mm-hmm.
like they might have like anger issues. Like they might, sometimes they even look like family dynamic, and I'm like, I don't think that our families would get along. And
Yeah.
that's something that matters to me. I know there's
Oh,
people.
it does matter. It
Yeah,
heavily matters. Like,
I
yeah.
wouldn't want to be with in-laws that I can't stand, and
Yeah.
stuff like that's something that like I would definitely consider. And I'm like, okay. And so I think about all of that, and it's like, it's best that I don't confess my feelings or my reciprocated feelings for them. I just kind of leave that ambiguous.
Yep.
So until they either fade away or until they get with someone or, whatever the case may be. And I guess the last question or comment now says, I was asking, I guess due to a previous question, I was asking because a girl I like never felt the same way and just wanted to be friends. And it's been almost 2 years and I never have been the same in confidence. Well, story for another day. Me and Jamila actually now, she she originally told me back in 2013 when I met her at Liberty University, which Chelsea Marie actually went to Liberty University too, but I don't.
LU.
Yeah, but I don't really recall running into each other, so that's like interesting. But Jamila actually told me that she would not like after I confessed my feelings to her. She said that she wouldn't allow herself to like me unless she knew that I was going to be her boyfriend. She wouldn't allow me to be her boyfriend unless if she knew that I was going to be her husband. And I am 40% of what she's looking for in a husband right now. And I was like, and she's in the
Whoa.
kindest way, and
I
she's
gotta meet
trying to let me
her.
know. Yeah,
I
and
like the
like,
way she moves.
yeah, I really respected it. I really respected it, and did that kind of hit my ego? I'd be lying if I said no. Like, so I understand now. Like, no, I was just like, oh, And she said that it was mainly like my spiritual maturity, which again, that was like another ego hit because to my friends, they saw me as like the preacher boy, as like the pastor, like I
Mhm.
like literally I had friends who were like, wait, she's saying that about you? Who is she waiting on then? Jesus? And I would think to myself, like, yeah, I mean, I think I'm pretty stellar. But the thing is, I had way more zeal than I did like actual theologically sound doctrine, So like I had the energy and zeal of a preacher and, somebody who loved God, but I didn't have sound theology. I still believed in a lot of things that I would now say are like ludicrous, such as like, you have the ability to lose your salvation just because you do something wrong. Like I could sin right now, and then all of a sudden my salvation is now revoked until I pray for forgiveness again. And I just had like a very like works-based mentality and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Just immature in general. But when Jamila said that to me, I didn't like go off on her or anything. I was just like, oh, wow, well, that sucks. But honestly, I can't help that I'm still attracted to you. However, I have self control and you're still dope. Can we still be friends? And she's like, yeah, sure. And honestly speaking, I honestly thought that we would never get together. I honestly believed that, hey, I'm just not the one for her, but I wanted to grow for myself. I didn't want another woman to tell me that I'm 40% or like I'm not spiritually mature enough. So I was still cool with Jamila and I still grew with her and I still, like worked on myself and grew for me. And then lo and behold, which again is a whole other long story that's very elaborate. Jamila 2 years later actually got feelings for me and we got together and now look at us, we're married. And the great thing is she says that I'm over 100% now. Like yeah. So like, that's like a really big, like,
That's awesome.
yeah, that's a huge confidence booster for me.
Yeah.
So to be honest, I'm not saying, Niall, that that girl is going to come back around. That is not a promise. But what I can say is that use that damage to your ego to now pay more attention to that area and start building more. And also know that like some people just have different interests. The same thing that somebody might like about you is the same thing that somebody might hate about you. And I know this. Like even literally on Twitter, I'll see people tweet stuff like, I hate guys that are nice and friendly and laugh a lot and do this and do pretty much describing me, and it's just like, ouch. But then I'll also see different girls who would post stuff like, wow, I just really love like, like kind guys that are this way and that way and that way and that way. And then that's like endearing. I can't please both of these people,
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you have to like understand, like just continue to be who you are and the right people, the right person will come to you. You will have friends you'll have people in the world who just won't like how you are. And that has nothing to do with you. That's a big thing to like learn for this year. Then you'll also have people who love how you are. And those are the people that you want to cling to. Just also never get too far to where like now you aren't working on yourself. So yeah, that's how I see it. Oh, where'd she go? Oh,
Sorry, I'm still here.
okay. Yeah,
Okay, wait, let me see if I can. Can you hear me? I
yeah,
don't know
I
if
can hear
I
you.
can hear you.
Oh,
Okay. Wait. Where's the sound?
I wonder if I should. Okay,
Oh
I'm
no, I
gonna
can't hear anything.
ramble until she can. There,
Okay, wait a minute.
ba ba, black sheep, have you any wool? Oh, can you hear me? No.
I can't hear anything.
Yes,
Oh
sir.
no.
Sir, 3 bags full.
What if I leave? Can I leave? Okay, shake your head. Can I leave and then come back?
Maybe.
If I hit the leave button?
Try it.
All right, well, give it a shot.
Okay. Well, let's see how this goes. Um, Also, you're welcome, Lily. Lilia. Sorry, have I been calling you Lily? Oh, that sucks if I have been. Um, okay. All right. She's coming back. Okay, great.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Yes. Okay.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. All right.
Oh, and really quick, just to add on what you're saying, I don't know if my
Yeah.
interruption, you were
Yeah, no,
okay.
yeah, you're good. You're good.
All right.
You're
Yeah, but also, just kind of what you said about Nile. That's how you say it.
hmm
Yeah, Nile is like also don't take on someone else's like just because someone else has a different picture in their head about who they want to be in a relationship with doesn't mean that you're less than. That's just the delicacy of their taste palette, and just understand that you're not always going to be someone's taste but it doesn't mean that you don't taste good. So it's just, I mean, somebody just they ain't feeling it. You know, some people like spiciness, some people like, you know, they like sweet things, and that's
Yeah,
okay. It doesn't make you less than. So
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yeah,
That was good. That was good. Yeah, and that's fitting right here. Lilia says, "Thanks for the answers." I think that we have two more questions. If you have the
okay,
yeah.
yeah.
So Lilia says, "How do you show someone you're interested in them romantically?"
You got to be upfront. I don't believe in sugarcoating anything. So, and I don't say, there's a difference between being blunt, and then there's a difference with being, you know, honest and
Oh, I like that.
transparent,
Mm,
right? And so you just have to be transparent and let someone know your intentions. You have to say,
mm,
look, I appreciate the connection that we have, but also I want to let you know that I'm interested in exploring this romantically,
mm,
because I see a lot of qualities in you that I would like to have in a life partner. And I
mm,
think that's how you have to. That's kind of how you have to explain it, and then you can show it, right?
mm.
Because it's kind of basically like a contract, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what you know, a marriage is. Like, you're saying all these words, these exchanging these vows, and then you actually do it.
Mm,
And so that's kind of what you have to do. You have to say, look, these are my intentions. This is what I want to do. So let me show you. Now let me show you.
mm.
So, because
Yeah.
then if you just start doing stuff and then you explain later, you're kind of like, well, what is this person doing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
No,
you
I
know, it's like,
totally agree with
whoa,
that. I
yeah.
totally agree with that. Yesterday, Jamila and I were having this very elaborate conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And it circled all the way back around to how we discovered that I subconsciously, but now consciously believe that the way that people dress is usually sending messages. And that's again a whole another video for another day. But essentially, I was saying that it's come to a point now where today, like, you know, for example, if somebody's like dressed in a way that's like, you know, like showing like cleavage or whatever, and it's supposed to naturally attract a guy, we live in a world where today, like, a woman, you know, understandably be like, just because I'm showing cleavage doesn't mean that I'm trying to, you know, and it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, my bad. So now it's safe to just like what I would do if I was a single guy and everything would just, even if I see that and in my head, the messages are telling me that person is trying to attract me. That person is trying to, is peacocking to
Yeah.
attract a mate, even though that's what my natural instinctive mind will tell me, like that's what the person is trying to say, I will not believe that because I've seen experience in our today's world where, you know, they can say that, but then the words don't really mean that. And
Mm-hmm.
so what I'm saying is that the safest thing to assume for me is that somebody doesn't like me until they kind of like make it very, very clear that I like you, you know?
Yeah.
And so in the same sense, I would want to do that to somebody else, you know, where once I've confirmed like, okay, you know, I really do like this person. I've checked them out enough, you know, in different situations. I've looked at all the family. I've run the simulation to see like how far it's going to be. I think I do like this person romantically. Then
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go ahead and shoot for that person. I'm gonna let them know, like, hey, um, I'm just letting you know this doesn't have to be reciprocated. That's also very important. Like, you have to be
Mm-hmm.
like when I was telling Jamila, I wasn't. She's not. She was not entitled to like me back. You know, and that's something that I feel like a lot of people have to understand. That just because you like somebody does not mean that they are entitled to like you back.
Right. And when you that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah,
Because you know, it's just like for women, you know, if the guys, you know, when you get catcalled, they're like, hey little mama, hey little, like, no thank you, I'm not interested. I like you anyway.
anyway,
Like right. You're like, wait, just, you can't say, okay, that's okay. I respect your decision as a woman to
yeah,
decline me and swerve. Like,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. So yeah, like once you understand that, then you can approach the person. You have your confidence kind of guarded now because
Yeah.
you now won't take a damaged hit. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
get rejected, then it's just like, all right, cool. You know, I'm still tasty. I'm just not that person's taste. I'm gonna remember that now forever too.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's good to like approach the person, let them know, like, hey,
Yeah.
Again, I know that you should know that this isn't any pressure to reciprocate feelings towards me. I just wanted to let you know that I am attracted to you, and I think
Hmm.
you're pretty dope, I think you're pretty, and you're smart, whatever. It's like, oh, okay, and well, thank you. That's very kind of you. I'm actually, unfortunately, like, not interested. All right, that's cool. Or maybe they are interested, or maybe it'll come at a later time. You don't
Yeah.
know. And that's just to like answer your question. Like, that's what I think of that. Are you more attracted to people who resemble you, same background, life path, interest, or to the opposite?
So I'm gonna let you go ahead and answer this really quick, and I'm gonna go grab my charger.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna make highlights for all of these questions too, and then make them like smaller segments for everyone who's watching. But am I more attracted to people who resemble me, same background, life path, interest? I think, yeah, people who more resemble me. I feel like I've never really thought about that, but yeah, probably. I don't know. I feel like I've always just been attracted to. I don't think it has to be any. Okay, interest. Actually, yeah, that last one, because I was stuck more on like the background and a little bit of the life path. But yeah, like the interest thing for sure. Like if a person has like very similar like interests to me and everything, and I feel like I can talk about certain things with them and they will genuinely be interested in these things, and I don't feel like I'm draining them by being interested in whatever I'm interested in, then that creates like a better thing. So I feel like it kind of goes back to that whole like opposites attract but they don't stay together kind of thing. I wouldn't want to be with like the opposite of mine. I want to be like with somebody who is on a similar, not congruent, but like similar wave path. Because if they're congruent to me, then can't really learn from them. But if they're similar, then we're similar enough to where like we can meet, but then we are different enough to like where we can teach each other and grow with each other.
Right. Yeah. For me, I think it's I am I like to explore options, right? So I never
Mhm.
sit there and say like, oh, I have a particular type. The person has to be this. And I don't, because I don't want to be small minded, and you just
Mhm.
never know what you're missing out on. But
Cheers on FP, guys. There goes the NE right there.
no, I think that you can it helps to be with someone that has the same background as you. Like for instance, like I think the main reason why I'm mostly attracted to someone of my same race is
Mhm.
because I go to church, and growing up in a Black church. It's just really funny to be able to connect with someone about those type of, if you grew up in the church and you can crack up with someone and they can get they understand the humor in purse candy and church candy. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Those little
Mhm.
strawberry little drunks.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
those little things. Like that's nice to have someone that you can cut up with,
yeah.
that appreciates that. But it's also okay if you are with someone who doesn't have a similar background,
Right.
but is willing to learn and is
Yeah.
willing to explore that with you, where you're like, hey, let's explain this. But I do think that it's really important that you have to have the same life path,
Yeah.
and I guess more so like intentions. Like,
Mhm.
you have to be able to go in the same direction, because it's very hard if you want to be with someone who wants to have a very an island kind of
Mhm.
marriage, and then another person
Mhm.
who doesn't,
Yeah.
who wants to be able to build connections with other couples and people within the family. And then there's some individuals who are like, no, I just wanted to be me and you against the world, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's where you create tensions, because then you have someone who wants to stay in the house all the time, and then you have another person who's like, let's go out, and then you create a lot of drama. So it's kind of like,
Totally
yeah,
agree.
yeah,
Got
there
you.
has to be some similarities there. So
Facts.
yeah.
And then the last question for tonight, Sydney Steele. How do you truly tell the difference between liking someone and just connecting with someone of the opposite gender? How can you be sure that you are indeed just friends? Oh, that's a really good question to end with.
Yeah. Yeah. uh, yeah, it's heavy. It's loaded. Okay. Go ahead.
Oh,
This
me.
is your show, sir. You lead. I will
Okay.
piggyback whatever you say.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna reread it because usually when that happens, then the answer just comes right to me. I thought that Chelsea Marie was gonna take this one first, but okay. How do you truly tell the difference between liking someone and just connecting with someone of the opposite gender? How can you be sure that you are indeed just friends? Okay, boom. So,
I know because it came to me when you repeated it. I'm like,
yeah,
oh snap! Wait
keep
a
it,
minute.
keep it. Okay, so for me, like I said, oh, you want to go first?
No, I'm remembering it.
Okay. So for me, I just know, and it's just like a knowing. Like for example, like with Jamila, I instantly knew that I was romantically attracted to her. I just instantly knew that, like, I don't know, there was just something there. Like, I don't mean it for it to sound like Disney or anything. And of course, for her, she wasn't instantly. She just commented. I didn't even know that she was watching.
Hi, Jamila.
But yeah, I just instantly like knew, like, dang, like, it wasn't just her looks, but like her overall demeanor and the way that she thought about life. And like the more that I got to like know her, then it was just like, wow. Ooh, another thing, today I was hanging out with my boy Jonah, and he said, like, we were discussing some things like that, and one of he we were so 5 6 questions that we have, like, when you're considering somebody romantically, like for marriage. Are they your best friend? Number one. Is it,
Important.
don't just stay with that one though, of course, like we said, this whole stream is, somebody being, like, they can be your best friend, but they still might not be a romantic partner for you. So yeah, number one, are they your best friend? Number two, is it hard for you to keep your hands off them? Which is, that's just the truth. Like, if it's hard for you to keep your hands off them, potentially that might be something. Then as Christians, do they love Jesus? Number four, do they make you want to love Jesus more? Number five, will they make an amazing parent? Like, can you see your children being like this person? And then number six, this is probably the biggest one, do you want to live without them? you know? And I feel like if you go through all six of those, that could kind of give you a good idea of, okay, with a friend, like just a platonic friend, especially with that number two, where like you can't keep your hands off them kind of thing, like that sexual attraction in a way, that might not always be there, like, so looking through those types of questions and like just thinking again past the physical to, okay, what is our family going to be like, is this somebody that I share values with, how are we going to do all of these things, like, how will our kids be raised? You have to think past just you and that person. You have to think of so much more that goes into romantic compatibility. And then once you see that, then you're like, yeah, I see all of this. This will actually work. And then I think that for me, like, that's kind of like how it works, as opposed to like just having another female friend who it's like, oh yeah, we have like similar interests, like she like Pokemon, I like Pokemon, I don't know, and we talk about things like biblically, and we just geek out about these things. We have a lot of like intellectual discussions. Yeah, sure, she's attractive, but oh, well, we kind of disagree on this value here. Oh, well, my parents are kind of crazy, or so, I don't know, whatever it might be. Like, there's just certain things that just might not really click. And it's like, you know what? It's best if we just stay friends, And so I think that's one way that I'm able to tell.
I think for me, it's kind of, let's see. Well, like, I think when it comes to when you just connect with someone as friends that's opposite gender, I think it's kind of like you don't even second guess it. You know, for me,
Mm,
it's not
yeah.
like, and I think because too, like growing up, I had a lot of guy friends that I
Hmm.
did not see in
Yeah.
that light. It was just kind of one of those instant connections. I was like, "You're so cool. Like, let's be friends." Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
and it was just okay. But then, like when it comes to like romance, I have to look. I always dig deep. You know what I'm saying? I have these little
Yeah.
fast track thoughts. I'm like, okay, so I look at a person's pink flags, and I'm like, do I want to help this person clean these flags? Like, do I want to help this person
Mhm.
do the dirty work? Because when you become one, when you get into that relationship, that is maybe intended for marriage, you have to understand that this person is going to have a bunch of they're going to have some baggage with them, and
Right.
those and in that baggage you'll find some really great stuff, but also you're going to find some pink flags, and you have to decide, do I want to do this laundry with this person? Am I going to
Hmm.
really going to sit here and help them hand wash this, where it's like, you know what, I see your shortcomings, you see mine. Let's help each other. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have to decide, like, you have to look and like, do I want to help this person? And it's not so much as like helping the person is trying to fix them, because that's
Hmm.
different. But it's just
Hmm.
like understanding that that this person has been hurt in the past, but I'm willing to be patient enough to help them through that,
Wow.
and love them despite of any of their shortcomings. Like, if
Yeah.
you're willing to do all that work, because it's just
Yeah.
like, if you have a friend, you're on an intellectual level, and they got their red flags, and you're like, yeah, no, I'm cool off that.
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
just, yeah, if you feel it on the inside as much as you feel it like in your mind, if you feel it in your heart, like, I'm genuinely like, I'm feeling it,
Yeah. 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 And I feel like I said, like sometimes you just know, like that's what it is.
yeah,
But
you
yeah, I
do,
think that, like
yeah,
that's just like a practical way of like explaining it. Like, like
yeah,
there was a girl who actually me and her like still very cool today, like back in high school. And it's like, oh yeah, like I think that we both found each other attractive. And people even said like, yo, you two like should go out or whatever. But we both knew like no. And we even
no,
talked about it. We were like, we would not last. Like she
yeah, and
had a
then it would just
different type
be
of lifestyle than I did.
yeah,
He was like, yeah, and like it's just like, hey, but we make great friends. We are great
yeah,
friends. And
yeah,
it's like, yeah, like so I feel like that's just like how it is. And okay.
yeah.
All right, Lilia, just for you. So like last comment. So what about ENFJ, ENFP romantic relationships, knowing that they share no cognitive functions in common? So yeah, like I said, Chelsea Marie's like still learning about all this, but pretty much, I think I sent you a link, like the car model, like mental processes.
Yes,
So
yeah,
the ENFJ and ENFP and INFP, the ENFP and INFP have the same cognitive functions, like mental processes, just in a different order. But the ENFJ, so like my type, I don't have any functions as the same as yours. And so she's asking, like, because these two types don't share any cognitive functions, then how would, I guess she's asking, like, how would we address that type of relationship? And I think, in short, I'm probably gonna. I've been wanting to make a video out of this because I see so many videos on YouTube, like, oh, MBTI and compatibility, and I'm like, oh, do I want to make another one of those videos? But I think I probably should. Um, the biggest thing that I'll say is that any two types can work out. Now it's all about, like, how hard you're willing to work it out.
yeah,
Like, I feel like I always talk about how ISTJs are my least favorite type. And I personally believe that because of the work that I've done on myself, I could be a good boyfriend slash husband to many different people, you know, but would it be as easy, as seamless, as smooth as it is with maybe like with Jamila? Probably not, because we just have like a natural connection. Like there's just things that like she didn't have to work hard on to appease to me, and I didn't have to work hard on to be fair. Like I'm someone who I really don't like yelling and anger. Like our home is like very chill, very quiet. Even when we have like disagreements, it's just like oh well, I just feel like this. I just feel like it's very civil. But I know like there's couples and certain types of people who just like they like that angst and that shouting and kind of stuff like that. That's just not me. That's not my taste. It might taste good to somebody else, but it doesn't taste good to me. you know.
Right.
And so for that, however, if I were to be with somebody like that, I could at least still talk to them, and I could tell them like, hey, I don't really like when you raise your voice. I like to handle things in a civil manner. I like for us to, like, just be chill, just talk about it. Let's listen to each other, kind of thing. And if they really care about me, regardless of what functions they use, they will work on that. And same thing for me, like regardless of whatever personality type that I am, if I really love the person, I would want to work on that. But yeah, so I feel like any two types can work together and work out in a romantic relationship, but you may have to work harder. So with the ENFJ, ENFP, they can look similar on the outside, but then they're using very different processes on the inside. And the most important thing to understand is that each person is not wrong, just different. And so
Yeah.
when you understand that their mental process, like, oh, you're not wrong. You're just using your intuition as an introverted intuition rather than extroverted intuition, like I am as the ENFP or the ENFJ. Like, oh, you're using your feeling as an introverted feeling rather than extroverted feeling as I do. And I see the value in that. And once you're able to see the value in uh, each personality type, then you're able to appreciate them for who they are and love them for who they are. But again, some of them, depending on what type you are, it might be hard. So yeah, for the ENFJ, ENFP, just as long as the two both love each other and are willing to work on themselves to be better for each other, then it could work out for sure. They're both NFs. They're both they both should love each other and care for each other. And I could definitely see that working out as long as they are willing to put in the work to meet each other in the middle and compromise for each other. So, yeah. All right. Well, Chelsea Marie, thank you so much
Yes. Thank you for having
featuring.
me.
Yeah, and like I said, everyone, I'm gonna like be creating like highlights throughout the next maybe like few days to few weeks, depending on my work schedule and everything. And I'm gonna be just posting them randomly, like on the YouTube, especially like this last question segment for the people who would want to just watch like the shorter segments of everything. And feel free to like share those. Feel free to share this full live stream discussion if y'all want. We're trying to really like seed this into society. So definitely go and talk to your friends about it and everything. And Chelsea Marie, real quick before we get about
Mhm.
what your goals are, like do, and also where can we find you online and social media?
What? Okay. Anyways, I'll tell you guys what I'm trying to do. Essentially, I really want to promote self love, self awareness, and be able to help people heal their emotions. So it's kind of I guess essentially trying to dig deep and figure out what traumas has caused someone to act and behave the way that they do, and how can we change that. And then a lot of the times for someone to be able to heal enough to be able to feel that pain and
Mm,
be able to work through that. And so if you can figure out the traumas as to how they hurt you, and love yourself enough to go through that roughness,
mm,
then human being, like what's that Michael Jackson said, you got to start with a man in the mirror.
that,
But you
that,
can find me
mhm.
on IG at Chelsea.0H. So that's CHELSEA.0H. And then you can find me on Twitter, tweeting nonsense at
No, it's not just nonsense.
Hey Chelsea Marie. No hyphen. It's just Hey Chelsea Marie, Mari.
Yeah.
So and then on YouTube at Hey CM. So
Nice,
yes.
nice. Awesome. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for commenting, and hopefully y'all enjoyed your time here and everything. Like I said, be sure to like, take this out and like discuss it with friends. Like, let's bring this out into society and everything. And Chelsea
It's the
Marie,
new
thank you
norm.
again. Yeah, thanks again
Yes.
for featuring on the channel, we probably gonna have you again here and there. But all right,
Right.
well, y'all have a great rest of your night, great rest of
Thank you.
wherever you are in the world. And for those watching post stream, thanks for checking us out. Be sure to leave comments, questions, concerns. Follow Chelsea Marie, and yeah, I think that's
All
about it.
right. This was good. Okay.